Here I'm using the smoke machine to try to diagnose a evap leak on this Honda Accord. And we zoom in over here, or just go up to it. You see we have a leak somewhere in the system, so I've been pinching off hoses, and try to figure out where this leak is at. After plugging everything off that I could, I cannot see a smoke leak, yet the flow meter is indicating that there is a leak. So it's as simple as grabbing a bottle of water with soap in it and just start spraying around. Alright, and there goes the leak right there. Alright, so it's a done deal. Someone just dropped off their car because they said it has an oil leak that they want me to look at, okay? I'm walking up to the car. Look what I see underneath the car. It's leaking oil that bad that this guy had to put an oil pan underneath the car. Come on now. You know it's leaking this bad, don't freaking park it in my driveway. I don't understand people. Great, I get in this Accord and the freaking brake pedal's going all the way to the floor. Look at this. It's crazy. The first thing I want to focus on is the brakes, because fixing an oil leak is useless if this car can't stop, okay? So it actually got new brakes all around, and I mean new pads, new rotors, and new calipers on every single wheel, okay? Just recently, like a few days ago. And the owner says the brakes were working before all of this work got done. So my first thought is there has to be air trapped in the system, all right? So it's what I started doing. I started bleeding. Well, first of all, I looked for leaks at each caliper. I didn't see anything. And then I started bleeding at the master and the ABS unit, okay? And once I got brake fluid coming out of each and every line, then I moved over to starting on the rear brake lines, or the brake calipers. So I've already bled both of the rear calipers, and I just got in the car and we already have a pedal feel. It's not great, but we do have something. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and bleed the front calipers, and that should be it as far as getting the brakes to work. Okay, so this Accord recently had a timing belt put on it, and after, well, the owner says after the timing belt job, that's when it developed the leak. So he took it to the Honda dealer and they told him the oil pump needs to be resealed. So here's where I see it leaking. Am I crazy, or that's just a drain bolt? Man, I'm not saying that the oil pan isn't slightly leaking, or maybe something from behind the timing cover. I'm not saying that. Maybe it is. It's an old car with a lot of miles on it. But the main leak we have is right here, right out the drain bolt. So because of this, the Honda dealer told him he needs to reseal the oil pump. And I believe on this engine that involves taking off the timing belt again. But let's get this drain bolt off and see what's going on here. I don't know if it has a washer on it, if the threads are all mangled up, or what's going on. Alright, so here's that Accord. The brakes not work. The car stops just fine. The pedal feels great. I texted the owner saying, hey, your brakes are working now. I fixed them. And here's the total for my labor for fixing the brakes. And he goes, okay, cool, but I never told you to fix the brakes. So at this point, I go back and look at our previous text, because I never talked to the guy in person. I didn't even see him. He dropped off the keys, dropped off the car when I was asleep. So I never came in contact with the guy, okay? And I look back at our previous text from a few days ago, like 3 or 4 days ago. And sure enough, his text never said anything about fixing the brakes that the car won't stop. What he mentioned was a power steering issue and that the brake lights don't work. So when I got in the car to bring it into the garage, first thing I noticed is this thing has no brakes, the pedal's going all the way to the floor, and automatically my mind just associated, Oh yeah, this is what he was talking about. The car clearly has no brakes. He did mention the brakes in our text, but when I look back at it, it wasn't the brakes. What he was talking about was the brake light. So I guess, I don't know, he feels at this point like he got bamboozled, he got taken advantage of, right? Because he didn't tell me to fix something that I actually went ahead and fixed. And yeah, that was my bad. I made a mistake. I just assumed that this is what it was here for, because without looking back at my previous text, the best thing I could recall is that he mentioned the brakes. And I know when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. I know all of that. But honestly, this is one situation right here where I don't even feel bad for fixing something that I wasn't told to fix, because this thing is straight up dangerous. It was super sketchy just trying to bring it into the garage. And let me tell you one thing. If it was here for just a power steering issue and no brake lights, and I go to pull this thing in and it has no brakes, and you don't want to pay me to fix these brakes, I'm not touching anything on your car. Why? Because if you get into an accident, I don't want you to say, oh, John was the last one that worked on my car. Don't need my name on this. All right, so had I not screwed up and just went ahead and fixed his no brake issue, and if I would have actually contacted him before I touched the car and he said, no, that's not what it's there for, don't mess with the brakes, I would have just turned this whole car, take your car, I'm not touching it. So I hope that makes sense. So yeah, I screwed up. I fixed something that I shouldn't have fixed. But do I feel bad? No, not really. He still agreed to pay me for my labor, so it is what it is. Anyway, the power steering issue. I told him, so what's going on with the power steering? He said, nothing. It works fine. I never noticed an issue. I told him, so what the heck? He said when he took it to the dealer, they said it's leaking and it needs to get replaced. And I told him, of course, they all leak. I mean, they're old Hondas. Those things always leak. I told him, hey, if it still works, run with it. But if you want me to replace it, I will. Okay? So I'm not really concerned with this at all, because technically it still works. The brake lights, okay? So he said he put new light bulbs in for the brake lights. He put a new brake switch in, and I did confirm all of this. It has a new brake switch. It has new light bulbs in it. I checked the bulbs. They do work. But all we get is a third brake light. Sorry, I got a burp. So all we have is the third brake light on top that's working. Everything does light up back there. We simply just don't have the brake lights when you actually hit the pedal, okay? So I go ahead and get a wiring diagram, nothing special, right? Just 20 bucks, wiring diagram for this car. And I started looking at things, and then I noticed that looking on all data, this car, looking at the wiring diagram, this car has what's called a brake failure sensor. Right? And when I first came back here to check the light bulbs, I noticed this connector right here just kind of sitting all by itself. And I looked back here and I'm like, I don't see there's nothing back here that it plugs into. I thought it was super weird that this connector is just sitting here. So after pulling up some information on all data and getting some pictures, apparently, let me get this out of here real fast. Right here inside of this, where this plastic bracket is at, see this empty spot? That's where the sensor would be for the brake failure sensor, and this harness is supposed to plug into it. Okay, so I'm done. There is nothing else I can do here. It needs that sensor. All right, so I asked him about it. I said, hey, these things just don't walk away by themselves, you know. Oh, well, like 2 years ago, I went to Firestone. It must have been them. The guy doesn't know. He doesn't know what happened to it, which is super weird. But I asked him, how long have these brake lights not worked? He said it's been about 2 years. How do you drive for 2 years? No brake lights. How? It baffles me. It really baffles me. Anyway, I think I'm done talking about this car. There isn't much else to talk about. We need to get that brake failure sensor back there. I'm out test driving this Accord after bleeding the brakes on it last night, and it stops absolutely great. You don't have to drive this car at 2 miles per hour because it doesn't stop. So I'm cleaning out the garage, nothing major, just making more space. As you can see, I'm getting rid of all these empty boxes. My question here is, what do you guys do with these tool cases or boxes. Back here I have a whole stack of them. You know, everything that's inside of my toolbox, you no longer need the cases for them. So over the years they just kind of build up, and I have a whole stack of them, and honestly they're just taking up space. I can't see myself ever using them again, so I think I'm just gonna toss them out. So what do you guys do with these things? Just toss them out? Got this Mazda Tribute in the garage today. Getting a good amount of work done to it. We're getting 2 front strut assemblies, a front left CV shaft, front left lower control arms or arm, 2 stabilizer links, and I believe 2 outer tie rods. Just my luck. Look at this. There is nothing there. I don't know. Hopefully this thing comes off. I don't got much faith in it. Yeah, this sucks. Alright, so I pretty much threw in the towel as far as the CV shaft. That thing is just like welded in there. Even using my big gun right here, it doesn't even budge, nothing at all. So I'm not gonna waste any more time on it. It's not worth it to me. What sucks is whether you want the CV shaft or if she needs a wheel bearing in the future, that has to come off. Alright, so well, just gonna have to go to a shop, let them deal with it. Just gonna go ahead. You can see I got the strut in, outer tie rod. I'm gonna start on the lower control arm. Alright, so I got the lower control arm off of the car, as you can see. This part, I replaced it, I want to say less than a year ago, and it already has a destroyed bushing right here, and that ball joint is loose. These are AutoZone parts. Get in the zone! AutoZone. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, this woman delivers newspaper for a living, so you know how in driveways, when you pull into a driveway, it just kind of dips down? So she thinks a constant pulling into everyone's driveways, you know, to get out of her car to go deliver newspaper. She thinks all of this motion that she's putting her car through is pretty much what's chewing up her control arms and suspension in general, because she kind of has an issue with going through lower control arms on this car. So I don't know if it's the crappy AutoZone parts or it's what she's using the car for that's causing these things to fail so quickly, but it is what it is. So here goes another control arm from AutoZone under warranty, and we're just gonna go ahead and slap it on. Got a 2012 Nissan Altima here. It's not here for this issue right here, but it's just something I noticed is the driver's side window is actually down a little bit, and when you go to push the driver's side switch, look what happens. Oh, nothing, because it's actually lowering the passenger side. Isn't that crazy? So there's nothing to control the driver's side. When you push the passenger side switch, nothing happens. Damn, this door got whacked in pretty damn good. Anyway, it's here because of a big oil leak. Alright, you can see how all of this is wet around here. What happens is the oil is leaking from inside of here, works its way down the lower control arm, lands on the inside of the rim, and then once you start driving it, it flings the oil all over here. It's been sitting for just a few minutes, and look at that dripping off of there. So we could see that housing is dripping in more than one place. Alright. So it looks like that's what we're going to have to tackle with figuring out what's going on with that. If there's gaskets or O-rings behind there, and then figure out what we have to do to try to fix this oil leak. You can see I already got it on a jack stand. Got the wheel off, took the side cover off. So on this thing, the oil cooler is actually puking its guts out. You can see the big mess that we have here. That oil cooler up there is not happy. As soon as you turn the car on, it's just dumping the oil like you wouldn't believe, and because of it, this thing is always low on oil. So what we got here is today it's going to get a oil change, obviously new filter as well. It's going to get a brand new oil cooler. I have the new gaskets for that as well, and since we're going to be doing an oil change, it's going to get a new drain bolt and washer, a new oil pressure sensor that's going to go right there, and antifreeze. Okay, since I have to, because coolant lines run into this piece right here, so because I have to open up the cooling system, I'm actually just going to drain out the cooling system before I disconnect these hoses, and I have some brand new coolant that's going to go in the car. So it's just going to get like a complete refresh. But this car needs a ton of work. If you were to drive this thing, it's super sketchy. Alright, so I drained the oil out of the engine, and let me tell you this, there was not a lot of oil that came out of this thing. And the oil that did come out, it was like just borderline sludge. So as you can see, I got the new filter installed. It's got the new drain plug. See it right there. So at this point, I'm not going to put the oil in it. Of course, I still have to remove the oil cooler, which I already started. I took all the bolts off of it. So I'm going to go ahead and lower it. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go remove this antifreeze first. But that sucks. I bought some of the blue coolant that goes inside of these Nissans, and what's coming out of it is the green stuff. So at some point, someone has already been putting the green stuff in it over time. So I guess, I mean, I got the green stuff here in stock. It's not a big issue. Alright, so I put the new antifreeze in the system. I put the oil in the system. And I've actually started the engine for a few minutes and just kept a close eye on it. Specifically at the bottom to see if it was dripping from right there. And it looks nice and clean. Well, not clean. You can see the whole thing is dirty. But I could tell there's no oil dripping out of it. And up there where the other gasket is at, which I didn't replace because the new part has a new gasket on it. But right where that flat plate is at up there, where you could see the screw going into it, that's where the old one was dripping off of. So I made sure to keep a close eye on that as well, and it looks nice and dry. I don't see anything dripping after running the engine for a little while. So what I want to do is I'm gonna open up this old one. I don't see anything crazy. It's just a worn out gasket here. I'm sure the gasket is completely flattened out. You see how you could even see it, that it's not proud of the surface. So yeah, just a regular gasket failure, simply because it's just worn out. I'm sure it's very brittle, and I'm also sure that replacing this gasket, this thing will be 100% okay and ready to put back into use. And I actually think I have a gasket for this, so I don't know, I may clean this up, make it look real good, put the new gasket on it, and just kind of hold on to it, see who needs it, or if I can't get rid of it, I'll probably put it on eBay as a used part. I don't know. When I turned on the engine, I noticed a loud rattle from underneath the car, and it turns out this heat shield right here on top of the exhaust was completely loose. It was just sitting there. So I put 2 clamps on it, one right there and one right there, and now it's nice and solid. It's not making any more noise. This Nissan Altima back in the garage. It's the one we just had the issue with the front brakes locking up. Don't worry, it's not back for that. Now it's been like a week later and the rear brakes are grinding, so it needs pads and rotors back here, right? She said everything was under warranty through AutoZone, so I'm trying to get the wheels off. By the way, I can't get the wheels off, completely rusted in place, so I've been fighting with this. So anyway, she said get the rotors and the pads off, she can take it to AutoZone, they're warrantied out. So while I'm working on trying to get this off, she comes over and says, hey, AutoZone just said the rotors aren't under warranty, only the pads are, so we'll put pads on it. I'll come back next week for you to put rotors on it. I told her it doesn't work like that, and honestly, I'm not gonna put my name on something like that. I won't do that. It's like, oh, I won't tell nobody. It's not about you not telling anybody. It's just work ethic. Okay, I'm not gonna do that. So she said she doesn't have, sorry, I'm out of breath here. She doesn't have the option to wait on Rock Auto to get parts more affordable because she just can't afford the rotors from AutoZone right now. I told her, look, it's gonna cost more money if we do this one thing at a time, because if you put AutoZone pads on here and then within a week you're trying to exchange them because they're worn down, you know, really bad from putting it on damaged rotors, they may not want to warranty those pads, and you're gonna have to buy another set of pads. That's more money. Top of that, if I come in here to put pads on it today, I got to charge you for labor, and then you come back a week or two later, put pads and rotors on it again, I'm gonna have to charge you for labor again. It's just gonna keep costing you money. So I told her, look, how about this? I'd rather do the job right, do it the first time. So I told her, go get the pads, we'll do it right, pay for the parts, and you can pay me later when you get paid. That's it. So right now, I'm trying to focus on getting this wheel off. It's been about 45 minutes and I still can't get the wheel off. I tried the wheel on the other side and still it's the same exact thing. This sucks. Alright, so only took like an hour to get one wheel off. This is horse shit, that's what this is. So just came in here with the map gas and just kind of heat up around this ring as much as I could get it, and then come from the backside with the largest prying bar that I have, which is this one right here, and just pry on something on the knuckle, and it eventually pushed the wheel off. What a freaking nightmare. And I still have to do all of this one more time on the other side. Alright, so I'm all done with this side. You can see it's got the new rotor inside of there and new pads along with a new hardware kit. Make sure to clean up as much rust as I can and put some CRC on everything. Now the wheel goes on and off without any problems. It's not stuck or rusted in place. So if someone ever gets a flat tire at like 1 a.m., at least they could get the rim off now. Just my luck. Finally got the wheel off after like 15 minutes of messing with this one. So I get the top bolts out and then the bottom one snaps off. I cannot tell you how upset I am right now. Here's what's left of the broken bolt. Initially I was gonna try heating this up and then maybe weld a nut on top, but this is not coming out. Come on now, we all know how stuck these things get, and then when you don't have the head on it, it's almost impossible at that point. Sure, it's possible, but the amount of hours that I would invest trying to get this one, it's not worth it. So I already called my local O'Reilly's. They're the only ones that have it in stock. So they have this bracket and a new set of caliper bolts. So I'm just gonna run to O'Reilly's and pick them up. The set costs about $50. I would spend way more time trying to get that out and probably won't even be successful. And either way, I would still have to run to the store because I still got to replace the bolts. So let's just get a new caliper bracket, new set of bolts, and that's it. All right, so I am back from O'Reilly Auto Parts, and you can see we got everything brand new. We have a new caliper bracket as well as new bolts. Now the hardware kit was not included. This came with a set of brake pads, and I made sure to remove the little dust boots off of the old caliper before I gave it to them as a core. Alright, so I'm just about done on this side. Everything went together pretty smooth. This has been the brake job from hell. It's literally been hours just to get a set of rear brakes done. This is crazy, and it's all because of the rust. You know, so those YouTube videos, remove bolts, remove wheel, yeah, screw you, okay? Anyway, I'm just gonna finish putting it back together, take it out for a test drive. It should be okay, and that'll be it for this turd, at least for now. I'm sure to be back for something else later on. By the way, this Astro rotor and drum puller has been a lifesaver. Without that tool, there's no way in hell I was gonna get any of this job done, because these rotors are on here real good. I had to put that tool on here and put real good pressure on it, and then use the torch and use the air hammer to break it free. But that tool is absolutely key in getting a job like this done.